gosh, hi.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, guys. Vanessa is on the podcast. I feel like every single time someone comes on, I'm always like, we've literally been talking about this for so long.
We have.
And there's been like so much like back and forth, but also life is life. And we're here, which I feel like this was divine timing. That it was supposed to happen now rather than like 2 months ago or something like that. But do you want to introduce yourself to...
what even am I? I don't know.
Whatever
Okay, I'm just going to quote my Instagram bio.
What's your Instagram bio?
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa.
Yeah.
I am a Chinese Australian creator,
Love.
brand consultant, soon to be lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and aspiring artist, I would say.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So much to chat about.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when did we first meet each other?
I was actually trying to think about that when we were chatting earlier.
Yeah.
But I don't remember there being a specific event where I was like, Ness.
Big. Yeah, how did we even meet? I said that so seriously. How did we meet? Sorry.
I think it was just a culmination of many small meetings that led to our friendship.
Yeah, but the thing that I always love about Vanessa is that she's always honest. She will always say exactly what she's thinking, and I feel like from afar, seeing all the like different things that you do, that I'm always like inspired by you. It feels like you're constantly just pushing yourself, you know, and like thinking like not necessarily what's next, but I feel like sometimes when you're in this industry you can kind of become like complacent, but I feel like you're so multifaceted that it's like you're not only like a content creator, you're like a lawyer, and you had your own company. Like I'm like, where do I even start? Actually, maybe your childhood. What's your earliest memory?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
My earliest, most vivid memory is probably with my grandmother. So I was brought up mostly by my grandmother. My parents ran a fashion company.
Wait, I think you told me
Yes.
this loosely.
Yeah, so they ran a fashion company, super busy. My mum was the creative director. My dad was like one of the directors. They were just major busy, never at home.
Yeah.
So I was brought up by my grandmother.
Wow.
So every week, my grandmother would take me out on day trips to Darling Harbour. And we would go on the merry-go-round in Darling Harbour. And then get yum cha.
Oh my god.
And then we come
yum.
home and then she'd teach me how to draw cats and dogs.
Really?
Yeah, and that was my childhood. It was just me and my grandma speaking Chinese, eating yummy Chinese food, and
Yeah.
she also taught me maths as well. So my grandma really loved just teaching me things, even when I was really small. So I learned like how to count, how to do multiplication, subtraction, all of that kind of stuff when I was maybe 4 or 5.
Wow. Is she
So-
still here?
She is. She's actually coming over in
Oh my God.
tomorrow. She stays with us like in weekly intervals. So she spends time here. So her son, which is my dad. And then the other week she's with my auntie.
Wow.
So she's like back and forth. That's her room next door.
Oh my god,
It's grandma's room.
amazing. I feel like
Yeah.
even you talking about like having such a close relationship with like your grandmother, like what does family and kind of like community mean to you? Because like I'm from like a Liberian background, but I feel like in a way, you know, coming from like a immigrant or, you know, family, that culturally it feels like we kind of like rely more on like family compared to sometimes in the West. I feel like people are a little bit more like isolated, but what does like family and like community mean like to you from those experiences?
My family is like my heart and soul. So I really resonate with what you were saying. I grew up with my cousins around me, my grandma and my granddad around me, and we all used to live about 2-3 minutes away from our house. So it would always be either at my house or my cousin's house. And so growing up, I was just surrounded by family. And I don't think I met my first non-family friend until I went to preschool. So I grew up just with like a community of family and young kids around me. And I was the oldest. So I was like the mother sheep looking after all my like younger cousins and my brother. And I feel like that has really stayed true throughout the entirety of my life.
Yeah.
My family's just been that backbone that's supported me through the really hard times, but also the really great times. And yeah, like even now in this place, like I'm living with my family, so
oh my gosh,
they're like everything to me. I do everything with them pretty much.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because Vanessa gave me like a tour, and on her Instagram, is it like a renovation series or did you call it anything?
It's called the Homeowner series.
So well, actually you can explain it.
Okay. Oh, this is a long story.
What?
The story behind the family home is like the longest story, but I'm happy to...
Okay.
I would say... maybe I'll start with my parents owning a fashion company.
Okay.
So growing up, my mum and my uncle started a really well-known Australian fashion brand.
Really?
Yes.
Who?
I don't know if they want me to share, but I'll just... it's time. But it was a really well-known Australian
So this was
brand.
when you were...
This is when I was... from when I was born till I was 18. So they ran it for like 30 years. Like 20, 30 years.
Actually, just quickly, were you born in Australia?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Yeah, so my parents moved from China to here. They met here.
Wow, okay.
And then my mum had already started up the company with her brother. And then my dad was an engineering student at UTS, which is so random.
Yeah.
Then they met. My dad quit his degree and then joined the business with my mum. They got married, had me, and then 2 years later they had my brother. So... wow. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing. Magical, like, immigrant story.
Yeah. Okay, so they had this fashion label and then what happened?
Okay, so the fashion label was doing so well. It was in pretty much all the Westfields. And every single morning I would see my mum leave the house dressed like head to toe, just super, super stylish. And I think that's where I got my love for fashion from, just seeing her leave the house every day just dressed impeccably. It was just something that I was always what
like, did it like evoke within you?
I would say it was my mentality. When I grow up, I want to be like a strong boss woman like my mom. So she was such a matriarch, and I never thought in my life that a woman couldn't be strong and smart and successful. Like, it was always something that was so possible because it was directly in front of me in my realm.
Totally.
And yeah, so for me,
I feel like that makes so much sense, like knowing you, because I feel like Vanessa's just like on it. Like, I'll be like the other day I was like to her, because I'm going to New York, and I was like, hey, like, and I've been to New York so many times, but I was like, do you have any recommendations? And she just sends me this like PDF thing. She's like, this. She's like, oh, I can also email this to you. And I was like, love. Like, I feel like you're always just like, you're just like on it. And I'm always like, wow.
I'm pretty type A.
So type A. I feel like I'm type B. Did you see me with all my... Okay. It's so funny how different we are, but I love it. Okay, so you like grew up seeing your mum as this...
My mum is like she's forever like my role model.
Yeah.
And growing up, I would say that I was extremely privileged. Like, I had an incredible upbringing, lived in a beautiful house. I went to private school and everything. Like, it was just, everything was handed to me.
How do you think that like impacted you, or the way that you viewed life? Obviously you were so young, but you know.
I would say that I had certain expectations about the way that my life was supposed to be. Like, if you grew up wearing nice clothes and living in a beautiful house, you kind of expect that as your normal baseline.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, when I was younger, we used to travel so much, family holidays and stuff, Japan, like China, all around Asia and everything. And that was just like a normal for me growing up. And for me, the only thing I ever really had to focus on growing up was just getting good grades at school.
Yeah.
And so I never really had to worry about working or worrying about just like financials or anything like that. It was just an incredibly beautiful and romantic childhood. But the one thing that my parents always instilled in me was that you need to work hard for what you want in your life. And so they did give me everything, but simultaneously they didn't give me too much.
Yeah.
They didn't allow me to have that spoiled mentality. And so I remember even in the school holidays when I was like year 5 to 6, I actually have my diaries right there, like the stack of books.
Oh my gosh,
Those were all of my diaries ever since I was 7 years old. And I found them recently. And I was reading one of the entries, and it was from like 2008. And I was working at my parents' warehouse sale.
Wow.
In like the trenches of the clothes and like steaming the clothes and helping people pack up their clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
Getting paid like a nominal amount. And then it was so funny but at the end of the day, they made me pay for my own dinner. So we would go out to eat pasta, and then my dad would be like, you know, what do you want to order? I'd be like, oh, I want the bolognese. And then at the end, they made us pay for the bill with all the money that we made that day, just for us to develop that mentality that you must work hard to make money
and understand the value of $1 to be like, wow, I just worked for like 6 hours.
Yes.
And only got this amount. They can only give me like not only, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the mentality that they instilled in me. And I guess just learning from watching my parents work so hard, that was always something that I just somehow just kept within me, knowing that I need to work hard to be able to get to where I am today. And it's only in the recent years since I became an adult that I've had those conversations with my parents about what their struggle, what their journey was like. Because before they were just my parents, you know? They have everything figured out.
Yeah, you don't really see them as like humans. Well, you like...
No, agreed. Agreed.
You see them more as like superheroes.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And I guess when you're growing up, everything is like very like subconscious, you know, you don't really like look back to be like, oh, this is the reason why I am the way I am, compared to like when you're an adult.
Exactly. So now I'm like, where do I...
Yeah, so you feel like you grew up in like a very privileged household, and I guess like as a child, did you kind of not really realize that until you had those moments where your family would like be like, oh, come work here and actually, you know, spend your own money? Was that kind of like a clicking moment for you to be like, oh wow, I'm actually really privileged? Or when did you get to a point where you were able to like be like, oh wow, like I didn't grow up like everyone else did?
I would say the moment happened when I was 17. So quite later on in my formative years. And that moment was when I realized that the family business wasn't doing well. Yeah. So we were living in this beautiful waterfront house with like a waterfall pool and everything. And my parents would just come home quite late at work. But then I was realizing that my mum was coming home later and later and later every night. Because I used to try and stay up just to say hi to her when she came back home. But then it was late to the point where I couldn't stay up because I had to wake up at 6:30 for school the next day. Yeah. And I remember some days my dad would pick me up from school, and he would get the texts from all of the stores all in Westfields that they used to have about Target sales and actual sales. Like the shops would send it to him because he like was the CEO of like operations, chief of operations. And I remember I used to read it out to my dad when all the way growing up. I would read it out to him just to let him, oh my gosh, this store did so well. This store did so well. And then as I turned like 16, 17, 18, I began to read out the target was more than the actual. So the actual was not meeting the target. Yeah. And then just slowly over time, I began to see and pick up that the stores weren't doing that well just by reading those numbers out to my dad because he was driving. And the moment hit me in 2017. This was in the start of year 12 and I was 17 at the time, and my parents pulled me into their room one night and sat me on their bed just like we're sitting now. This is back in our old house, a beautiful waterfront one. And they were like, Vanessa, we need your opinion. We can't afford to send your brother to this private school that he was going to anymore. It's like too expensive for us. And I, at the time, so context is my brother's 2 years younger than me, and I was always the more like type A academic student. My brother was like the sporty, charismatic one, and I was like the nerdy type A one. And so I was on scholarship at my school, but my brother wasn't at his school. And so my parents could afford me, obviously, to send me to my school for my final year. But my brother had 2 years left, and it was at full price, and it was very expensive. I think it was like, I don't even know the numbers. It was like 80K or something, like very high. And they couldn't afford to send him anymore. And so they said, can you please start applying for selective school entry for him for year 10 and 11 and 12. Oh. Well, sorry. So my parents asked me to apply for selective schools for my brother.
What does that mean,
selective schools? So in Australia, they have these public schools that are academically ranked. So you need to do a test to get in, because they perform extremely well. Like always top 10, top 15 in the state.
I think because I grew up in Queensland, I think we had one like that, but it was like you could get in for like sports or academics. Was it kind of similar?
Sports and academics, yes, exactly. So, and the tuition is pretty much free.
Yeah.
It's like a government school, but really, really good schools.
But obviously attracting kids that are
super, super smart.
Yeah.
And so they have this year 10 entry program. So that night I went onto Google and was like applying for my brother. And that same night I secretly wrote an email to the headmaster of his current school, just telling them everything that happened with like the family business, how it wasn't going well, how my brother, he had started at that school since kindergarten, and like as a sister, like I couldn't bear to see him like leave all his childhood friends to start at a new school. And so I sent off that really long email and didn't tell my parents, and started applying for selective schools for him. And
you were 17 at this time. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was 17. I've always been a bit of a words girl. I've just loved being able to...
But also even just taking like the initiative as well, you know, that like that's quite bold.
I would say that it all comes back to what we were talking about before about family. Like you will do anything for the people that you love, and that's definitely me. Like my whole life I've always been like that, like protecting them and looking after them. And so sent the email off, applied for the schools for my brother. And in that period of time, my brother went to the schools, did the interviews and stuff, and he got in to one of the schools, like a really, really great school. And in the midst, I had my year 12 graduation ceremony. So quite a few months had passed then. And my brother took the day off school to come with my parents to watch me graduate from high school. And I remember after the graduation ceremony, all the girls met their families underneath this beautiful tree in the courtyard. And I was standing there waiting for my family to come out. Then I saw my brother like coming through the crowd with this huge bouquet of like flowers for me. And he like gave me the biggest hug. He's, "Oh, Vanessa, I'm so proud of you that you graduated." And then I remember that night just thinking about how my brother might not be able to graduate from his school the way that I did from mine. And it just made me really sad. Yeah. And it's just crazy because a couple months after I sent that email to the headmaster, my dad received a call from his assistant saying, "Hey, Mr. Lee, headmaster, I would love to come and talk, like come for you to come in for a meeting." And my dad was really confused. He was just, "What's going on? Did he get expelled? Did he do something?" So he goes in for the meeting, comes back home that evening and tells me that the headmaster had received my email and that he'd offered my brother a 50% scholarship for the last 2 years of his schooling at the school. Even though like it was just on purely grounds of like compassion and empathy and wanting him to finish his education at the school. And I was really, really moved by that. And the same situation happened again where my parents pulled me into their room again. And the decision was, do we keep him at the school at the 50% scholarship, but still having to pay like a very high tuition fee? Or do we send him to this incredible school for free for the next 2 years? Like, what decision do we make?
That is so, like...
Yeah.
how do you think that you even were just able to build that sort of relationship with your parents where it seems like they've always really just like valued your opinion and I guess, I don't know, like put trust in you. Like, I feel like that's quite like a special dynamic that most kids don't really have with their parents.
I don't actually know why, I think.
Yeah.
But that was my first experience being an adult, I think. Because growing up, I always just had to focus on my studies. I never really had to worry about anything that was a big adult decision. And this one, I felt like I had a seat at the table and I was contributing to this big decision, which is pretty much the direction of my brother's life.
Yeah. Did you have like private conversations with your brother? Like you two?
I didn't.
Yeah.
No. Growing up, my brother and I weren't actually very close. Yeah. I had more of like a motherly relationship. I feel like that's very like brothers, like even, yeah, I can relate. I had a motherly relationship with my brother, I think, because I was so sensible and my parents were never home, so it would always be me telling Ethan to do his homework or me telling him that it's time to eat or me covering his school books for him, me signing his permission slips. So it was always this very parentified elder sister that I was, and so I think he always just saw me as this very serious sister that he couldn't really make fun, like have jokes with, or like be a friend.
Totally.
And so even when we were deciding, I didn't ask him because I just knew, like I knew what would be better for him.
Okay.
And so back to the conversation.
Yeah.
Do we move him or do we let him stay at the school? So my dad he's a very practical guy. He was like, the school, the academics are better. It's for free. Like, why wouldn't we move him
at this new place?
To this new school. And my mum was on the fence. She was just not sure. And I was pretty much like, it's a sign from the universe that the headmaster gave him a scholarship. And I knew my brother. I just knew that he's not the competitive academic type. So I knew that if he went into that kind of school, that it wouldn't be good for him.
Yeah.
And he also really values his friends as well at his current school. So I knew that it would really, really affect his mental health if he did move for the last 2 years of his schooling. So I was like, he must stay.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much my dad and I having this back and forth. And it was the first time I actually stood up to my parents.
Yeah.
First time, because I've always been such an obedient child.
I would love to get your take on this because, like, I've grown up in an environment... What is he saying?
Time to eat.
Oh. I love that. I feel like I've grown up under kind of like with my family dynamic, and especially when I was in high school, that I feel like I didn't, like, it just wasn't really a thing to like speak back at your parents.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
Even
not.
if they're wrong.
You just don't like, you just don't say anything, or you wait until they come back and they're like, oh, actually, but even then usually that's not the case. But now, as you obviously being 17, 18, graduating and becoming more of an adult, how did you navigate that kind of like shift in dynamic? Because I feel like I didn't grow up in an environment, not that like I wasn't like encouraged to share my opinions, but it just was like different, you know, compared to like when I would go over to my friends' places and they'll be like talking back to their parents. I'd be sitting there like stressed for them. I'd be like, wow, that's how you talk to your parents?
I know. I think it's very much of a, like, it sounds like our cultures have that similarity where it's called filial piety, where it's you must respect your elders, you must give back to them, you must always be grateful, you can't talk back.
Yeah.
That was always me as well.
Then how do you feel like you, like, obviously it's, like, I even, like, coming over to your place and seeing the way that you interact with your parents, I can obviously see that there's, like, so much respect, but how did you kind of get the courage in that moment to be able to kind of, like, push back and stuff?
I would say it's because my argument or my stance came from a very valid place. I knew that I wasn't coming from a childish or immature place. I knew that it was a very reasoned and rational judgment that I was making. And so when I was having that, it wasn't an argument, it was more so just a disagreement with my dad at the time. It was pretty much, I was just so set because I just knew. I just couldn't really describe why I knew, but I knew that my brother's life had to head in the direction that I was pointing at. And so it was pretty much this back and forth, just kept on going, to the point where I just said, then I'll pay for it then. If you don't want my brother him to go to the school, then, and I want to, then I will pay for it and I'll make sure that he goes to that school. And so that was set. But I said it, I was 17, so privileged that I'd never worked a day in my life, was about to sit my HSC. Like, I had no conception of how it is to make money outside of making money from my parents' warehouse sale from the family business. But I just, because I think I know that if I put my mind to something, I will always make it happen, regardless of anything that stands in my way. So I decided that I would do that. And so after I finished my last HSC exam and after I got my ATAR back, I did really well. And
of
then
course.
I worked hard.
I don't question that.
I worked so hard for that. I was like, I need to get into Sydney University Law School. I need to get an ATAR of 99.5 or above. Like, I will work so hard for that. Got the marks, got into law school, and the day that I got my ATAR, I posted so many ads on HSC discussion groups for the years below, saying, hey, I'm Vanessa, I just graduated from this school with an ATAR of 99.8. I'm offering tutoring, English, maths, legal studies, visual arts. Shoot me a DM if you're interested. Got hundreds of students, like pretty much overnight. And I spent the summer leading up from the end of year 12 to the start of university in March, tutoring 90 hours a week. Like, to the point my throat was like, I lost my voice.
Wow, that is so crazy how...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
90 hours a week. I remember...
and what did your family think of this? Like, when they just saw you, like, going for it?
Yeah, I was going for it. And I remember this was a bit after I finished my HSC exams, and my family had pulled in all this money from my aunties and stuff to send me on my schoolies trip to Japan with one of my best friends. And in that time that I was overseas, we lost the house. And by the time I came back, we'd like moved into this really small place that we were renting because we'd lost the house. The business pretty much crumbled within that whole year. So there was no company anymore. The house had been like repossessed by creditors and everything. So we like lost everything.
Wow.
Pretty much, like absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And so then coming back home to this home that didn't feel like my home, with this new reality.
This lifestyle that was like so different.
It was so different.
Yeah.
It was very, very hard to stomach, I think. But for me, my next goal was I need to get my brother through school. So I pretty much just switched off my emotions and just like put my head down and I just worked.
How do you do that? I'm always like, sometimes I feel like when I speak to you, which I love this so much, but you're like so practical that like, you know, we'll be talking about stuff and you'll be like, yeah, this is just, I can literally, I feel like sometimes when we're speaking, I can see your brain being like A plus C plus D plus E plus B, like put it, like moving all of the puzzles together. Like, do you feel like that's just come naturally or has it been more like circumstantial?
I think I've always been a very logical person.
Yeah.
The way that I think in lists. It's like very like logic. I can't even describe it. I think in, you know how in Microsoft Word you can do like the numbered list?
Yeah.
But then when you press the tab, it's like 1A, then you press tab again, it's like 1AI, and then it goes like I, and it goes like little dot points and stuff. That's how I think. I think in like lists like that. It's like very logical. So I think when it's a problem that I'm facing in my life, whether it be business, career, love, maybe it doesn't really work with love, obviously, mate. There's a sense
I think sometimes you try to like logically think your way like through love, and then I'll be like, okay, like
you realize that love there's two people.
You're like, yes, I'm just watching. I'm, okay.
Yeah.
So then you were like determined. What conversations did you have with? Obviously, I can imagine the social group that you had were probably all really privileged. If that was the schools that they were going to. What reception did you get from like your friends? Like, did you open up to them about what was happening with you?
No. I literally just disappeared off the face of the earth for like a year. That's something that I'm still working on.
She said, "Got to go."
Be right back. No, genuinely, I think for me, I've always been such an internalizer, which I've later learned is avoidant leaning tendencies. But I've always been the type to have a problem, figure it out logically in my head and move forward. And I think that was really stemmed from not really having a strong emotional support network growing up, because
with like your peers
and also my parents, because they weren't here physically, so I never really had the opportunity to open up about things I was struggling with. I got bullied when I was in like year 4 because I was really chubby, and I never
sorry.
No, I was like bullied, but I couldn't.
Oh, so you got it at all.
I couldn't.
No, just the way you said it. I don't even know why I'm laughing, because you're literally like the most beautiful person ever.
No, but I was reading my diaries again, and
I'm so sad.
And I got bullied, and the girls.
Sorry.
My nanny used to pack like snacks for me. All these like,
oh my god!
All these like Asian snacks for me, and
I don't even know why I'm laughing.
And like the bullies would like steal it.
But like, best believe you had the best food.
I did.
That whole place.
They just wanted my choco pie.
Oh my god!
But yeah, like I didn't tell my parents about that. Just didn't want to trouble them because they were so busy. So I always had this I would say growing up, I was always very, very mature as a kid, very much of an old soul. And so I think I just developed the tendency of internalizing because I knew how to figure out my problems logically. And so when everything happened in 2017, I just didn't have a way that I knew how to express it to my peer group. And I would say growing up also, I really struggled with friendships in the sense that I was always such an old soul. I was such a serious kid.
I can imagine you with your backpack and you're like, did you wear glasses at all?
No, I ended up wearing contacts, but I could have worn glasses.
Okay, but you're just getting there for your being like, I'm here to study.
Literally. In preschool, there was this hill at the top of the playground with a paper bark tree at the top of the hill. And I remember I was 3 or 2, or probably 3. I sat on the top of that hill underneath the tree and I was just peeling the paper bark off the tree. And I would just watch all the other kids in the playground, like getting sand in their mouths. And
you're like, what
eating
are
like
they
really
doing?
I'd be like, why would you do that? It was just very weird. And even in high school, I was just always very ambitious and like I knew I wanted to get into law school and everything.
So you always knew that you
brought this thing.
Wow.
I want to show you.
Okay.
This.
Oh my god, I love the colour.
So this is the autobiography I wrote
my dreams.
when I was 12. Literally. I wrote this when I was 12. Yeah. I wrote how many pages? I think it was 76 pages of
Was it like a school assignment?
It was like a HSIE project we had to do in year 6.
Oh my God.
And so we had chapters we had to write about like our I had a prologue and an epilogue, like, about kindy, year one, upbringing, everything. I wrote everything. And I remember I found this the other day when I found my diaries. My dad found it in the garage, and I wrote, there was this page where
what the hell?
You write about my future.
Oh my god.
And I wrote, ever since I started thinking about my future, I've always dreamed of getting 99.98 for my HSC and going to Harvard University. And I will try really hard to make this dream come true, despite all the pessimistic comments that have been stated to me. Things such as, Obama went to Harvard, how could you possibly get in? 1 in 1,000 students get chosen every year, do you think you'll ever succeed? And then I wrote, my life motto is stay strong in life and never give up, which means to never let pessimistic situations bring you down and never give up hope to make your dreams come true. Like, this was when I was 12, 11.
Wow.
Like, I was just really, I don't know, I read this and I was really surprised.
Oh my gosh. But I guess as well, you talking about seeing your mum in that way, that it also makes sense that you just kind of like, you were like embodied it, and you were like, of course I'm gonna be able to do this. And also I do believe in terms of like people having like old souls and having like lived, you know, different lives and stuff. But that's insane.
Yeah, I don't even know. I was a weird kid, and so growing up in high school, I think I kept a lot of my thoughts and those deep... I was a very deep person.
Like, do you feel like you had like a good friendship group, or what was that like?
I would say I was a bit of a drifter in high school, because this is going into a completely different topic, which is identity. And I think growing up as a Chinese woman, a Chinese child in a predominantly Caucasian school, it was a very big challenge for me, because there was like a very clear like Asian group in our year group, but then I didn't feel like I fully belonged there either, because I loved fashion, I loved pop culture, I loved like all of these things that they weren't interested in. But simultaneously, I didn't feel like I really fit into like the Caucasian like popular group either, because I really valued my studies. I didn't want to party, like I didn't really care about boys and stuff like that. So I was always in this liminal space where I was jumping into classes with these really smart, high-achieving kids, and I loved them. They were so intelligent and just like really pushed me to do my best. But then socially, I was like, oh, like I don't really want to be perceived as Asian. I think that was like a very big conflict that I had growing up, because I didn't really embrace my Chinese identity, and I wanted to be something that I wasn't. And so growing up, I think that was the struggle that I really experienced, and I didn't really find myself and find that pride in my Asian identity until university, when I met like-minded people who looked like me, who liked the things that I like, but who really also took life and their career really seriously. And so that was kind of like my friendship circle growing up. But I think I was very lucky that I grew up with a brother who was 2 years younger than me, a cousin who's 1 year younger than me, another cousin who's a year older than me. So I had best friends in my family already. So I didn't really feel like I didn't have like a girl best friend, because my cousin Chloe was my girl best friend. I would see her like every single day. So I didn't feel like I was really missing anything in terms of deep connection and friendships. And I was also pretty introverted growing up as well. I loved reading, I loved drawing, I loved like writing stories and stuff. So I didn't really feel like I needed a really big social circle. But yeah, like if we were to touch on what happened after year 12.
Yeah, so you got into, what is it,
law
Sydney
school,
University?
Sydney University, law school. And I remember starting university and being like, oh my gosh, I need a job at a law firm. Like the first day, I was already like, I need a job at a law firm. So because I knew that now with considering my family's financial circumstance at the time, we didn't have any connections in the legal industry either. And so I knew that I had to be one step ahead of everyone, because a lot of the people at Sydney Law School, their whole families are lawyers, judges, Supreme Court justices, High Court justices. Whereas like when do you ever meet like there is no such thing in history where a judge has the last name Lee, you know, like Justice Lee. You've never heard of that. So for me, I knew that I had to get my foot in early, because I was essentially up against these people who have families that have legal backgrounds. And so I remember looking in the Sydney CBD on Google Maps and searching boutique law firm or just law firm and seeing all of these law firms that popped up. And I sent my cover letter and my resume to I think like 200, 300 law firms, just saying, hey, like I'm a first year law student at the University of Sydney. I don't have any legal experience, but I will be the fastest learner and the hardest worker in the room if you hire me. And out of the 200 and something cover letters I sent out, one firm got back to me, and it was this tiny property law firm in Wynyard. And I remember going in for the interview, and the founding partner, he's from a Greek immigrant family. And when he heard my family story about the business and my parents being immigrants, he was like, you know, I want to hire you. Like, I really believe in you. And I got the job. That was my first legal job. I worked as the paralegal, the receptionist, the accounting assistant, everything. The coffee maker, the printer, everything. And I remember starting law school, and I did a finance degree, a commerce degree as well on top of that. So I was 3 days at law school, and after class would finish at around 4 p.m. every day. And I would have high school kids booked from 4 p.m. till like 9 p.m. And I would have them back to back at the law school library in the study rooms. I used to book the study rooms back to back, and the kids would just come in and out of the law library, and I would tutor them. And I did that like a couple of times a week. Then I worked like 2-3 days at that law firm as well. And weekends I would work, I would drive over to Chatswood and tutor kids in Starbucks from like 9 a.m. till like 6 p.m. till when Starbucks closed, and did the same thing on Sunday. And I think altogether I worked like 90-hour weeks or something, because I needed to make enough money to get my brother through school. And I did that for 2 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What... I know that you were saying, like, when you were younger, you felt like you and your brother didn't really have, like, a close relationship, but was he aware that you were, like, doing all these things to, like, how did that kind of, like, or did that change your dynamic in any way?
He was definitely aware. My brother he's one of the most emotionally sensitive, but in a good way. He just really feels the room, knows how you're feeling. He always knows what's going on. And so I knew that he knew, and he, to this day, has always been so grateful to me. He's like an angel to me. And I think through that process, it was such a hard time for my family as well, like adjusting to this new lifestyle where my dad was like working as a tradie, like manual labor, which is very different to like being the chief of operations of a company. Mom's retired, and then my brother was finishing up school, and we were living in this like tiny rental. I think my family really banded together over that. The first 2-3 years was really, really hard. And so I think that also forced my brother to mature a lot as well. He ended up doing so well in year 12.
Oh my God,
like
yeah.
black horse, black sheep, I don't even know what the word. Like literally did so well.
Yeah.
And I remember the day that he got his he did the International Baccalaureate, which is like
what
the
is that?
HSC. It's like a global graduate diploma one. It's like HSC, but you can use those marks if you want to go overseas. So he did that. He did so well. Got his marks back, and I remember I was upstairs at the time, and he was like yelling, "Oh, like I got my marks back," and I was like running downstairs. And when he told me the mark, I literally like bawled my eyes out. I was like so proud of him. And on his like graduation ceremony as well, where I saw him like walk across the stage, and like graduating from that school and getting an award because he did so well. I was like literally in the crowd with my little phone, like a Facebook mom, just like sobbing my eyes out because I was so proud of him. And I think to this day, I like to say that I will always be my brother's safety net. Like I think for me, like I had to work so hard and obviously do things I didn't really want to do and force myself to work really hard when I was younger, and almost I would say I did somewhat rob myself of my youth in a way.
Yeah, I was thinking that in terms of like, because I can, like, not to the extent that you did like everything, but I can relate when I think for me, I always had at the back of my mind that like, if I wanted something, no one was going to provide it for me. And because I was in an environment where it was like you're starting from scratch, you don't have any family that's in like a certain background or any sort of like connections, that I always put that pressure on myself where feeling like you kind of had to be like, you know, 2 steps forward compared to like everyone else. That I think recently I've been thinking of like identity and like the self, and I feel like especially when I was younger, something that really helped me with my confidence was like my achievements. And then I feel like as you get older, that obviously you want to, you know, live a good life and you want to keep doing these things, but in some ways it's kind of like as though at times we don't really give ourselves permission to like just be and like not necessarily have this like normal experience. But I think sometimes like, you know, you watch these like coming of age movies and it feels very like simplified in terms of like these characters having very like trivial things that happen, but because they're young, they're able to like invest in that and explore it. But sometimes it's felt like I like, not like I didn't get the opportunity, but it just felt like a different kind of like circumstance. I don't even know what question I'm trying to ask, but like I guess as you've gotten older, how have you even tried to like come back to self, and what does that even like mean to you?
I love that question so much. There's so many interlinking parts to
Yeah.
that. I definitely resonate with you saying that you placed a lot of your self-worth in your achievements.
And especially growing up in like, sorry to cut you off, but growing up in Australia as well, you know, obviously like different backgrounds, but definitely still like a minority, that a lot of the times it is hard because people don't just like, it kind of feels like you need to like come into the room and be like, hi, I'm Cynthia, and this is all of the things that I've done, you know. This is like, you know, like I'm this, compared to like if I just walked in and I was just like, hi, I'm Cynthia. Or maybe, I don't know, or maybe that's just something that, a pressure that I put on myself, I'm not sure.
It's almost a question of self-worth, right, and how you see yourself. I've been reflecting on this notion, I think, for the past year and a bit, and I first discussed it in therapy early last year. I started going to therapy because...
Last year?
Last year, because I realised that all my life I've been solving my own problems. And so the way that I view the world is the way that I view the world. There's no external third party who is helping me to unpack my issues apart from my lived experience and my own mind. And I thought that was actually quite limiting. And the issue that I had that led me to have this spiral was I was thinking about how after every single time I have a huge achievement, so for example, getting into law school or getting my brother through school or starting a company or all of these things, I'd be happy for 2 seconds and then I would just go for the next goal. I wouldn't actually celebrate myself or truly feel grateful for how far I've come. And I just wasn't happy. Whereas in my life, even growing up, I used to always think, okay, when I do this, I'll be happy. When I make this amount of money, I'll be happy. But when that future situation becomes my reality, when it became my reality, I wasn't happy. And I really needed to get myself out of that cycle, because I was really beginning to see that all my life, every single time I've walked into a new room, I've always felt this pressure to prove that I was worth enough or I was good enough to be in that room. And it wasn't because of who I am that was what I was trying to prove. It was what my attire was, or like how much money I was making, or who I knew, or how cool I was, all of these things, how funny I was, all of these things. And I just realized that wasn't the life that I wanted to be living, where I was constantly trying to prove all these external things that make me cool or show that I've got a lot of accomplishments. And that's what I went to therapy for, because I really feel like when you associate your self-worth and your identity with how much you've achieved, you will never stop. You can never really give yourself a break to actually be present and be yourself, or really try to peel back those layers and, you know, find out who your inner child is and who you truly are, because you're constantly trying to pack on more and more and more because you don't feel like you're worth enough just by being who you are today. Mm-hmm. That's what I've kind of felt. And I think this year is the year where I have been so intentional with trying to unlearn that mentality, where, you know, I don't want to meet someone new and tell them that I do all of these things. I don't want them to view me as someone who's like, you know, a super high achiever, like has done all these things. Yes, it's great, but if I die tomorrow, hypothetically, I would love to be known as like a really kind person and someone who is there for her friends, as opposed to someone who is just like major successful, because that at the end of the day is all transient, right?
I totally relate to everything you said. I think though it is so hard as well because of the you know, industry that we're also in, that it's very, that even like, I don't know, this year has felt like such, just like a, for me personally, like a whirlwind. Like I feel like there's so many things that have been coming up where I've been like asking myself in terms of like, is this what I really want to do, or like what direction do I want to go in? But it's kind of hard when you're in a workplace, which is obviously like online, and we can like touch base on this, and your achievements, which obviously in any sort of working environment, your achievements kind of like dictate how people perceive you.
Yeah.
But especially when you're constantly kind of like showing people what you have, or like what event you've gone to, or like what partnership, that I feel like, especially the past few years, that it kind of feels like I've just kind of just been like going, you know, and haven't really like given myself a moment to just like stop and like reflect. Like obviously I reflect in terms of being like, oh, is this like the direction that I want to go in? But I do have that like instant gratification, and then when things, like when I do a job where I get really excited and then it's done, and then I'm just kind of like, okay, like what's next? You know, like I'm like, how do you even kind of like unlearn that, you know, being in this space, because you constantly have to show people what you're doing.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question.
Yeah.
I think
especially... And even how you got into socials as well. Sorry.
Yeah, there's just so much. Where should I start? Where do you want me to start?
I guess maybe how like socials potentially, I guess, enabled more of that like high achiever sort of thing.
Oh wow, that's such a good question. So I've been on social media for so long.
Yeah.
I don't even know when I started posting intentionally, but I've always loved taking photos and stuff like that. And it only really became a thing during COVID, when I started like taking more photos because I didn't have to commute to uni and to the law firm that I was working at. And it just took off from there. And I remember, I really love how you brought up the question about getting lost in it almost, because I spent so many years trying to craft my online persona to be someone who is worthy of working in like luxury fashion. And I remember I've always loved luxury fashion, and it's always just been something that is in my periphery. Like my mom loved designer and stuff, but when everything happened in 2017, obviously that lifestyle wasn't mine anymore. And it wasn't something that was my reality anymore. And I knew that if I wanted to be able to afford those things, I would have to work so damn hard to get there. And I remember when I started working more with like luxury fashion brands, and going to these really, really cool events, getting dressed by these incredible brands and like wearing like nice bags and stuff. I feel like I lost myself for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I definitely did, and I think that was in...
What did it, like, evoke within you?
I think for me, it was such a struggle because I would go to these events looking decked out, head to toe, and then I would come back home to this house that wasn't ours, to my reality, and it was just such a high, and then it would just be such a low. And I remember... earlier when I first started in the industry, I had a couple of negative experiences where I felt like people obviously weren't super inclusive, and I was such a fresh face as well. And I think especially being a woman of color in the industry where you have no connections, you really have to like push for yourself and back yourself to be seen and to be valued and to be heard.
Included in those spaces.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember I was so young. I was like 21 when I first started in the industry, and I didn't even have a clear conception of who I was or my self-worth or anything. And so I think especially with the struggle that I was experiencing back home, going to these events and feeling like no one cared about my story or they really just cared about how I looked, I felt so minimized. I think that's the right word. And I really struggled with that. And I think as I got more into the industry and learned the way that the industry works, I realized that maybe it's not made for me. Like, I don't need to shape myself to be what that industry expects me to be and what people would expect a luxury influencer to be online. That's what I realized. And it took me 2 to 3 years to really unlearn that, because I realized that every single designer bag that I own, I saved up so hard to be able to afford that. And all these pieces mean so much to me, and it's never something that I will ever take for granted. But I think what I realized is I couldn't put out this image of myself that I was always at these luxury events and always carrying designer bags, when my reality was I was working like 90 to 100 hour weeks trying to support my family financially. Like, it didn't align, it wasn't authentic to me. I think that's the struggle that I had. And I think with me, I view having a platform as a privilege. Like, I truly think it's such a privilege to have a community of people who trust you, who look up to you, who aspire to have your life. And I felt like I was almost aspiring to have the life that I portrayed on social media. Do you get what I mean?
Oh my god, 1000%.
And in 2023, this is like post-COVID, but things are starting to pick up a little bit again. I hit the worst burnout of my life. Like, the worst burnout of my life. For 4 months.
I would have known you by then, right?
It was like 2022, 2023. It was like the worst year of my life.
Yeah.
The worst burnout of my life. Literally spent 3 months just lying on the couch with no energy, no will to do anything. And that was through years and years of switching off my emotions, working really hard. I started a company, like my talent agency back then as well.
Yeah, you
was working
did.
at the law firm.
I remember meeting you, and you said, "Oh, I've got like a talent agency," and I was like, "Who is this girl?"
I think I remember meeting you, and then
was it at like a PR? Oh, my tongue just
really. I can't even do that.
Was it at a PR?
I think a random PR event, but I'm not sure if you remember, but I think I dropped off for like a year. Like, I think I met you and then I didn't see you for another year, because I think I was trying to get back into like the content thing and the fashion thing, and then hit burnout, and then I just dropped off for like a whole year. Like, didn't really want to post anything, just felt so burnt out.
This is also something that I struggle with. I feel like as much as like Instagram and socials is our work, sometimes I feel really bad if I'm not in like a good place mentally or just in my life.
Yes.
Posting that I've tried now to kind of like just separate those two and be like, it's fine. Like, this is my work and this is like my personal life. People don't actually need to know. Like, if I'm going through something, people don't actually need to know what's happening in my personal life. But I feel like I can relate in terms of sometimes you're like projecting this image where you're like, this isn't like 100% real.
Yeah.
But then also like no one's happy like 100% of the time.
I agree.
And also it's kind of hard to be open and vulnerable on like a platform like Instagram compared to sorry, I know it was aggressive. Compared to like if you like wrote like a whole article and people were reading it and they obviously went out of their way to read that compared to like if they just see like a photo or like a snippet of a video. That I think sometimes I'm like, I don't know if people are able to like actually sit with this the way that I would want them to sit with it, you know? Like if I'm expressing myself or being so vulnerable, you know, that it's like, it's hard.
It's difficult because the way that content works is that it's just so fast paced as well, you know? And I definitely just, it's hard trying to find that balance. And I spent 2 to 3 years trying to think about how do I pivot my brand or kind of
and not feel this like guilt or shame.
Yeah, like kind of grow my brand or evolve my brand to a way that I feel that it still captures remnants or parts of what I love, which is like fashion and beauty, but shares ultimately like who I really am, which is just a very deep thinker, someone who reflects a lot, someone who thinks a lot about life and how to be a good person and all of these different things. And I think coming out of that burnout period, I realized that I have not been looking after myself. Like I've been trying
putting
my family first, trying to make things work, and just not looking after myself. And I still ignored it for like 2 years, like a year and a bit. But I think this year is finally the year that I have been really intentional with what I put out there and how I spend my time. And I think I've truly reached this point where I feel so peaceful, but mainly I think because I've done everything that I wanted to do in terms of like in late 2023, I bought this house for my family.
Oh my God, yes, wait, finish the story. I feel like we've been going in and out, but so we're on Nessa's IG. What is it called again? The series?
The new series? Oh.
No, for like the house, the home.
Homeowner series.
Yeah, so basically she posted about buying this place and then her and her family like have come together and like renovated it. And I've walked through it. It looks incredible, but that's like, it's like a huge thing to do. Like, do you feel like going into social media, was that what really helped you to kind of have that as a goal? Or like, how did that even like come about, you know? Like to have that intention to be like, I want to buy a place for my family.
I think when we lost the house in 2017, well, we lost that whole life that we had, it was this combination of grief and ego and love that made me really decide that I'm going to work, no matter how hard it is, I'm going to get my family back to where we were before. Like, I'm not afraid of working hard or anything that comes in my way. I'm going to get there. That's why I like put my head down and was supporting my brother through school, and then after that started the business because I wanted to make enough money to be able to support my talent, to support my family, like with our living expenses and retiring my mom, like all of those things. Like I just didn't want my parents to suffer more than they already had. And so luckily content and the agency, like everything like together just like started doing really, really well. And there was this like threshold moment in 2021, 2022 when I was working in this huge corporate law firm, and running the business and doing content and studying at law school when I was just like, you know what, I think I'm going to give myself a shot and try to do this business content creation thing full time. Take it like seriously.
Oh, and quit
my job at the law firm. Finish up my law degree, but just see how it goes.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I'm like, how do you have the time to
I was so burnt out. That's why I chose to make that decision. And so then went full time with the business, so content and the agency. And that also led me to my major burnout period. But that already alleviated a lot of the burnout I was also experiencing. And it just like started to really grow from there. And I finished my law degree in late 2023. And I remember taking myself to New York, and I lived there for like 2.5 months.
Oh my God, I remember
in like
that.
the West Village. It was the best thing of my life.
That, yeah.
And after coming home, I told myself, I'm going to move there next year, 2024. It's going to be
Oh my God, I remember this era.
And when I got home, my parents and I started having conversations about buying a house. And that has always been a goal of mine, to buy a house for us to live in. But I didn't think it would be a 23-year-old Vanessa situation. I thought it'd be like a 27, 28-year-old Vanessa thing. And so when my parents raised the conversation, initially I felt a little bit taken aback because I didn't feel ready. Like, it wasn't part of my 10-year plan to like buy a place yet.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. I hadn't traversed my 10-year plan yet.
Yeah.
Enough. And I remember initially feeling very stressed, a little bit of resentment. That's why I went to therapy. I started going to therapy because I needed to talk to like an independent
someone
about it. But then ultimately I remember talking to my therapist and also just thinking about like a financial plan and everything, and telling my parents like, this is what I can do and let's just like go into it together. And we found this, I actually put down an offer for a different place like 20 minutes away. And it was like $200,000 more than this place, but a lot smaller. And then somehow the day that I signed the contract for the other place, this place came onto the market, and I had a 7-day cooling period, so I could rescind my contract before I was fully locked into the first house. And I remember we inspected this place, we loved it, and then put in an offer for this place whilst also having the contract signed for the other place. And then the offer got accepted for this place, and it was like 2 times bigger, $200,000 less, and it just didn't look as good aesthetically. But I just knew.
But you knew that like you had a vision. Yeah.
The vision, exactly. So then rescinded the contract for that previous place, locked in this one, and then my family and I spent a year, pretty much, nearly a year. It's still getting renovated now, so like over a year.
Yeah.
Renovating, and it's like honestly like the dream place now.
It's so
it's
amazing.
Really nice. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. What do you think you would say to that like 17-year-old girl and being in the position that you are now, who was kind of like going through all these things and like seeing things unfold and probably feeling like you couldn't really do much, you know? What would you say to her?
I would say the motto that I wrote in my autobiography, which is stay strong and never give up. I think I've always just had that unstoppable self-belief in myself, even during moments where I had doubt. And I would just tell her to always just trust in your gut and just keep pushing. I've always had that, maybe it's intuition or I don't even know what it is. I've always had that really deep, deep trust in myself and knowing that I can get anywhere that I put my mind to.
What does your like inner voices sound like? Someone asked me this question recently and I was like, because I feel like a lot of people talk about like having really like inner voices that kind of tell them like they can't do things and stuff. And I feel like online I see videos of people being like, don't listen to like the voices in your head and stuff. And when people are so just kind of like on it, and not that your achievements like define who you are, but obviously you seem like someone who doesn't try to put a ceiling at the things that they can achieve, but you kind of leave it open. Like, what does your internal world sound like?
That's such a good question. I don't even know. Let me think.
That when you're like starting something,
Yes.
how are you able to just kind of like not get, because I feel like there's so many, because sometimes I feel like despite me still doing it, I think sometimes what slows me down in terms of like doing things is that I'm always a bit like, oh, but like, how is that going to happen? Or kind of like, or sometimes I'm like I can't see the path. So I'm like, I kind of can sit in that energy a lot rather than just like, and I like to think that I'm like a pretty positive person, but rather than just like being like, well, blah, 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 I didn't know how it was going to happen and they still like made it happen.
Exactly.
You know?
I would say I always have the vision of what it will look like or what it would feel like when I get to that spot. So for me, I've always, if it's buying a house, I've always known what my future house would look like. And even if it's crazy, but I made this video in 2021 and it was just when Reels first came out. And it was how what I said was how I would decorate my house if I wasn't a broke ass uni student. And it was literally like this.
Exactly.
Sheer curtains, like cornices and moldings and stuff. But I would say the way that I've approached any goal is visualizing it and really, I just see it in my head. Like it's almost me jumping into the future and seeing it through my own eyes. And then it's reverse engineering. So I work backwards. So hypothetically, if it's, I want to buy a house at this price point by this time, then I would literally reverse engineer it all the way back to the present day. And so I would break this huge goal into bite-sized components. I think I took it from my year 8 art teacher, Mr. Hetherington. And I remember there was this one day...
Sup, Mr. Hetherington.
The best. He came into class one day. He was this really eccentric, bubbly man. And he just didn't even say good morning, kids. He just said, kids, remember, chop the elephant into bite-sized pieces. And I think ever since then, I've always just chopped the elephant into bite-sized pieces. Whatever big goal it is, I've always broken it down into manageable components in a very chronological action item order. And so I just got to like check, check, check. And I just go along with it. So nothing ever seems impossible because there's a logical way to getting there. So I'm a very solution-based person. So if there's a problem, which is how am I going to achieve this goal, I always try to find the logical step-by-step solution to get me to that goal. So I never really feel stuck because there's always a way to get unstuck.
Do you ever experience like limiting beliefs?
I would say so, definitely. I think it's only human to, but I try to acknowledge those and not really let them sit, I think. Even earlier in the kitchen when we were talking about how I wanted to start a podcast and everything.
Yes.
I wanted to...
You should. You'd be so good at it.
Yeah, I wanted to start a podcast maybe 3-4 years ago because I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts religiously. But my limiting belief was, I don't think I'm old enough or mature enough to have a podcast where people would actually listen to what I have to say. And so I haven't done it. But I know that it's a limiting belief and that I can start a podcast if I wanted to. But now I'm just time poor. So I need to find, you know?
You're like,
no, I think it's only human to have limiting beliefs.
Because also, I guess, I think kind of like what I'm coming to realize is that, like, when I was younger, I feel like I just was so, like, not that there wasn't space for those limiting beliefs, but I would still just, like, work through them. Like, I would just do it. Like, I would be really nervous and unsure, but I would still just, like, action it. Whereas I feel like sometimes the older that I get, that sometimes I get, like, stuck on the beliefs, or I just kind of, like, sit in the energy. And maybe because when you're younger, you haven't really experienced as much rejection, so you just, like, keep going, compared to, like, when you're older, you have that, like, experience to be like, oh, I'm gonna get, like, rejected, or this isn't gonna happen. And sometimes I feel like I can get, like, stuck in that energy. You know?
It's because when we're young, we're almost naive. We don't know what's going to happen if we do something. Whereas when we're older now, we're a little bit more, I wouldn't say cynical is the right word, but our lived experience. We were saying this before.
Do you feel like you're cynical? Or where do you
we're a bit more realistic, I would say. But I think naivety, there needs to be a good balance between naivety and being realistic, because if we're too realistic, a lot of the time we probably wouldn't take the risk that we've taken. If I was realistic, I probably wouldn't have done the business thing. I would have stuck into being like a corporate lawyer and worked my way up the partner route. But if we're too naive, we could find ourselves making a lot of mistakes along the way, which at the end of the day is a way that we learn. But I definitely agree in the sense that I think even now that I've gotten a bit older and I've gotten more experience into starting businesses and whatnot, I'm less willing to just be, okay, let's just register this business and just get it started, because we're a lot more intentional now with what we do. And because we've already built brands online, it's difficult to just do something spontaneously and randomly. It needs to align, which is the difficult part. You know?
How did you come to the decision to, like, when you were doing, like, because you, like, with the talent management, did you end up, like, closing that business?
So I just sunsetted it. It's not, like, fully closed, but it's just more so I decided to close that arm, and then now I'm focusing on the content, which is, like, myself arm. The reason why I chose to do so is because I felt like I did that for 3 to 4 years, and I felt like I wasn't learning anymore. And I think as, like, a solopreneur, growing and evolving and learning is one of my top pillars. And so I could definitely see that there was more space for growth and learning through my own personal brand, and I could probably make a bigger impact towards people if I did kind of work harder at my personal brand. Because when I was managing talent, I had no time to create. I was so burnt out. I didn't have any creative juice in my body. And so I had a feeling that this was the correct next chapter for me. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll end up going back into it. But I think right now I feel so grounded in the current career that I'm pursuing that I'm really grateful that I made that decision a couple of years back. Yeah.
What's next for you with kind of, like, everything that you've, like, learned and, like, the position that you're in? With, like, content and law, like, do you see yourself, like, going more into law, or are you loving, like, where you're at with content?
That's such a good question. I would say that transparently I'm still figuring it out. I'm very happy with where I am now. And that is totally fine. But I definitely see my sights into growing my personal brand more and having businesses that stem from that personal brand. So expanding out beyond just social media partnerships and kind of having more of, like, a influence, maybe a podcast, maybe a brand, you know, who knows. Second thing is with the legal side. That's always just been such a passion and love of mine. So I definitely want to integrate that legal side of my identity more online. So I would love to contribute to policy regarding, like, social media and influencer law, that kind of stuff, and get more involved in how the law meets our industry, because right now it's evolving. It's a very grey
so quickly
area, but it's evolving, and I think it'd be really cool to play a part in that development, or at least be someone who knows what's going on and is kind of sharing that online. So I'd really love to marry my legal side and my social media side together, trying to do that a bit more. But I definitely will get admitted as a lawyer sometime this year or next year. That's a goal of mine. So at least I have the Supreme Court of New South Wales photos where I'm like signing the papers.
Yeah.
My dad would also be prouder of me if I'm a lawyer. And also I just think it's cool to have that legal backing. Like I can do whatever I want with it. And third, I think in terms of like a personal project, I would love to have an art exhibition.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes. Let's think about your art. I didn't even know that you like did art, and I feel like more so this year you've actually been like sharing that other.
I actually started this year like properly.
Oh really?
Yeah. So, but I would say, growing up, I've always loved the visual arts. When I was in primary school, my parents sent me to art school on Friday afternoons. I learned how to sketch like cubes and paint and stuff like that. And growing up, I just loved it. It was always just a very natural talent of mine. I was the kid that would just finish her maths problems really quickly in school and then just draw in the corner, like do like little flower doodles around the page. High school, I did visual arts as well for my year 11 and 12. So did a huge, like large scale, hyper-realistic sketch, but that took the life out of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I just stopped, because that...
You're like, that did it for me.
I just stopped and...
was exhausted.
I was exhausted, and prior to that, I've always just been more of like a graphite on paper, like a sketch, like lead pencil kind of girl. So I hadn't painted for probably since, I think, like year 9 or year 10. And this year, the whole reason why I started painting was because I thought my walls in my house looked a little bit bare. And I just wanted some art for my walls. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. And I might as well document the process, since I love documenting my life anyway. And then I just like fell in love with it again.
Yeah.
And I think painting is just so therapeutic. It's almost like every time I paint, I just feel so at peace and so present, but also just so myself. Time just goes by so quickly when I'm painting. So I think I'm slowly trying to find that. I think I found my artistic style actually now, like the painting I'm working on.
Yeah, oh my god, it's so big. Wow.
I think I found my style. I just need to work more on it. It's like so big that it's taking up a lot of my time.
No, but that's good. Do you feel like more creative doing art compared to like when you get like brand partnerships?
100%.
Okay, yeah.
The reason why I started posting content was actually because I didn't have time to do visual art. Because photography is an art form, but it's much more of a quick art form. And so I started posting really cute flat lays and stuff in first year uni because I needed a creative outlet. Like at least my feed was curated and it looked really good. But if I had a choice and I had more time in the day, I would have probably drew or painted. And so I think photography, I love it. And now videography, I really do love it.
You're so good at it.
Thank you.
You really are. Like I feel like it just always looks so polished. And do you usually use like mainly iPhone, or do you?
I've started using my DSLR, but I do mostly just film on my iPhone, just the back camera.
Yeah. But honestly, I feel like there is an art to using iPhone. Because like everyone has an iPhone, but like not everyone's content be looking that premium.
Thank you.
And that's the truth.
Such a compliment coming from you.
From me? Yeah. No. Like honestly, I feel like when it's come to this whole world with like socials and blah, 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 like I feel like I've learnt from like friends and like everyone else. Like it's never been something that's come naturally, and even now I still sometimes I'm like, I don't really know if that looks that great. And then we'll be like in an event, and then Vanessa will take a photo of me and she'll be like, nah, this light is just not doing it. And I'll be like, okay, babes, let's.
Oh yeah, like last time.
Yeah, you were like
at the gallery. I was like,
you're like, no.
She's just an honest girl.
No, I like her though, because then I'm like, she's one of the girls. Like
I'm one of the girls.
She won.
Okay. How long have we been chatting for?
Like an hour and a half.
Oh really? No wonder I was like, my throat is getting dry, and I was like, this is going really quickly, but my throat is dry.
Anything else we want to say? Like
art.
You know, family, art, socials, yourself. Okay, I feel like with all that in mind, in terms of like, when I say like overachiever, I don't even mean this in like a negative way, because if anything, that's something, it's not just overachieving. It's, I think for me, it's like the self-discipline and the ability to be able to just like lock in, have a goal, you know, and like go for it. But like, and now going to therapy, where do you think you've come, or what place are you at with like yourself and like stripping away like all those things?
I am at a place where I feel so grounded. I don't feel like I need to prove anything to anyone or to myself, actually, which I think has actually been the hardest barrier. A lot of the times I think we're proving it to ourselves. Yeah, because our need to prove ourselves to other people stems from us. This pressure that we put on ourselves. And I think this year, I don't know what it was. I think it was just the intention that I set for the year, realizing that I actually wrote down a list of everything that I've done in my life. I think it's very practical to just visualize it and see. And considering, I was like, wait, I've done this much and I'm 25. I think I can just take a break and just live a little. I think that's been the motto for this year, has been living for myself, just living a little. That's the whole inspiration behind my new series, which is a year of living for myself. And I've just been trying to connect with that inner child, trying to breathe a little bit more. And it's been so healing. And I think through that, I've found my artistic process, and I just feel just very like still water. I think that's the best way to explain it. And I don't feel this need to go to certain events because I would be perceived in a certain way, or dress a certain way, or do things that I feel like are expected of me, because I just know who I am. It's just this like growth that I've experienced recently, where I feel so secure in myself, my identity, and where I am, that I feel like I'm unshakable. And I think that's a very healthy and great place to be.
Oh my god, no, 100%. Like, if anything, that's kind of what you want, especially in this industry, because even if you don't like it, you're kind of like forced to always be like, what's next? And because you're on this platform where you're constantly seeing what other people are doing, we're only humans. And we're only girls.
Another thing that's related to that is, I think even though we work within the social media industry as creators, we still fall victim to the comparison trap, where we know that the life that this particular person is posting on social media isn't their real life, because we know that what we post, we only share a certain part of our life. But yet we still fall into that trap of, oh, she has the perfect relationship, the perfect house, the perfect everything. Like, why can't I have that as well? And I think what I realized is, this is actually a lesson that my mum taught me when I was 15. She said, life isn't made to be fair. Like, that's the reality. Some people are born with more, some people are born with less, but you are born with what you have for a reason, and you just need to own that. There is no reason why you should be like someone else, or you shouldn't be like yourself. Just be yourself and your life will just flow. That's what she told me, and that's just so true. Because I think on social media, we just need to be authentic and show up as us, and we can never be replicated, you know, because we're just showing up as who we are. So I think that's really, really important for us to all remember.
I love that. Yeah. Oh my god, I feel like it's like a great note to like end the podcast on. But I always ask everyone the same sets of questions.
To stop. Is that my wait?
Yeah, sure. Maybe just for like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Be quick.
Father Ray. 我哋仲喺度 film 緊，得唔得等5分鐘先啊 ？Please, thank you.
It's like, I've got things to do.
My dad's like, 2 days ago he was drilling. So I was like, oh my gosh, I hope he's not drilling when Sin comes over. That's so funny. Okay, sorry.
Okay, living or dead, if you could have 2 people at a dinner party, who would they be?
Michelle Obama. I just finished reading her autobiography, Becoming, and truly so inspired by her story, but also I resonate so much with her mindset, just who she is. Like, she's always just been so type A, such a high achiever, such a checkbox person, and being able to surrender to that and the chaos of being the former president's wife, it's just incredible. Like, I would love to talk to her. Another person, who would I talk to? I feel like Stephen Bartlett. So random.
I don't know who that is.
Stephen Bartlett is my favourite podcaster. He has a podcast called The Diary of a CEO.
Oh, wait, that guy. Oh, my God. He's been coming up a lot in
his podcast is incredible. I started listening to him during COVID.
And he's like blown up not recently, but like he's doing really well.
He's incredible. I would love to just pick his brain about like career, business, everything.
No, he seems like a cool guy.
He's so cool. I remember he did a live show in Sydney last year.
Oh my God, did you go?
Obviously I went. I was there. I took my Apple Notes and I was just like... Of course I do.
I love.
And then he actually came out afterwards, like, and just said hi to people. I couldn't even say hi to him because I was like fangirling so hard. I was like, I'm such a fan of your brain. Oh my God. He's just so like so intelligent, and I just think
he
such
seems
an inspiration.
Really kind as well.
Yeah, I just love that energy. Stephen Bartlett and Michelle Obama at the dinner table, like
ultimate.
Yeah. I'd be yapping for like 48 hours with them.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, if you so your last meal, what would it be? Last meal on Earth.
Last meal on Earth. This is so niche, but I've had a really big love for Italian food recently. Normally, I would have said something on my mum's. Like, my mum's Cantonese cooking is amazing, but Toddy's pasta, the muffaldine crab pasta, the squiggly one.
Oh wait, yeah, I've had that.
I had that recently with my best friend. It was like it was our second dinner after a night out. We just got drinks because she got a new job, and I was like, this pasta, last meal on Earth right now. So good. Yes,
I love Toddy's. What's the best piece of advice you've been given? I know you've kind of said throughout the podcast, but yeah.
Best piece of advice. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think now. I'm like, I would say that my art teacher one was good. What my mum told me was also good. I'm trying to think who else has given me advice. Does this have to be directly spoken to me or a piece of advice I've gotten from online?
Oh, it can be anything.
It was this podcast. It was actually Stephen Bartlett's podcast. He was interviewing this... He used to be the ex-head of Google AI or something. I can't remember. But his name is Mo Gaudat. And he is pretty much like a happiness expert. And I remember I was listening to this podcast episode during COVID. I was on my 30-minute walk permitted outside, and I was listening to it, and I was going through a really hard time at the time. Just obviously everyone was kind of just, moods were low back then. And he was talking about happiness, and about happiness is essentially an equation. So happiness occurs when your expectation of a situation aligns with your reality. So for example, if you want to get a particular job, that's your expectation, and the reality is you get the job, you're so happy, right? Or you want to buy this house and you get the house, you're happy. Unhappiness occurs when your expectation doesn't align with your reality. For example, if you expect the day to be sunny and then the weather's actually raining, you're a little bit just annoyed about it because you expected it to be sunny. If your reality can't be changed because life just happens, the only thing you can adjust is your expectation. So if you want to be happy, but your reality can't be changed, then you change your expectation. And once I learned that, I think I was able to reframe the way that I look at life and the way that things happen so much better, because I've always been because I'm type A, I'm also a little bit of a control freak in the sense that, like, everything planned out, I like to know what's going to be happening. But the reality is that, especially as an adult who is running your own business, and there's so many interlinking factors that work in your favor or not in your favor, a lot of things don't happen the way that you want them to.
Yeah.
And so once I adopted that mentality, I felt so liberated.
I love that.
Yeah. So I would say that
wow.
is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever listened to.
No, that's a really good one, because I feel like I can sometimes get stuck on, like, oh, things didn't go this way, but then it's also like, I do believe that everything happens for a reason. Yes. And then it's like, well, if it's going this way, then it's raining today. That's my expectation. It's raining.
Exactly.
Rather than being like, why isn't it sunny?
Raining? Yeah.
Why didn't this happen?
Exactly. Yeah, because we can't change our external situations. We can only change ourselves.
Yeah. And if you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be? Thank you guys for listening.
Do I
share you can say it to me or you can say it to them. I don't know.
A piece of advice to the listeners.
Yeah, one final note to leave people on.
I think I'm going to steal what you just said. Ooh. Everything happens for a reason, whether good or bad. If it's a bad thing, it's always a way for you to learn something new and to grow. So it's never truly bad.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This has been so good because I feel like we said this in the beginning, but like, you know, we're like friends, but kind of more through work. And so I feel like we always have these interactions where it's always funny when we go to all these events and like us girls kind of know each other. But it's not every day that people are able to actually be able to like go deep, because you're kind of like seeing each other with like, you know, 10 minutes and then you're like trying to get content, and then there's like so much like, you know, stimulation like happening that I've like learned so much about you. And like I feel like everything that you've said, I'm like, oh my god, that completely makes sense in terms of like how you are the way that you are. And yeah, like, thank you for sharing. That was so beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I'm so glad that we...
I'm so glad it finally happened. I know. I feel like when we were both in, like, a better headspace and, like... And life was in... And also, it's, like, a sunny, beautiful day.
It's such a nice day.
Yeah.
And the lighting really did it for us today.
It hit. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Bye.